Okay, hey Jen. So I'm going to show you how to create an employee file in Dotloop. So we're going to try to get everybody done shortly. I'm going to put one person in right now so you can get an idea how to do it. It should be fairly simple. Then after that, we will have a meeting and go through the Zap. Exactly. So, okay, I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to take it from there. So, okay, so there is my screen, and I am signing into Dotloop. You should have an admin, by the way, at this point, so you should have access to every file. Just be aware that Dotloop is actually it's a simple program. So that's what it is. It's a simple program. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, so to create a loop, you're going to click over here on Create Loop, and the loop name you're going to put in. You're going to start out with employee, and I will tell you that currently. And put a little dash, and then you're going to put in the employee's name. So I'm going to be putting in Carlos right now as an example. So Carlos. Okay. And then you hit continue. And the template we're going to use is the new hire loop. Continue again. There's no photo. We're going to hit done, and it is creating loop. So there's Carlos. Oh, just be aware if you're zipping around here in Dotloop, you'll see there are a number of them that say Carlo that'll have the name first, then dash, then employee, and some of them are like this. I prefer them like this, and then I'll probably go back and update the other ones so they're all basically the same. So from here, we're going to click on View Loop. And this is going to be an other. The loop status we use here is always in progress. Okay. First thing we need to do is we need to add the person. So we're going to come down, scroll down, and click Add Person. And I'm going to put in Kenya, make sure its name spelled correctly. C-A. Email address is, let's see, B-I-C-A-S-I-D-A. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on a role. His role is going to be other. And here's where you can check off send an intro email. I never check that off. Okay. Just FYI, add to my team. I'm sure you've already seen what it says, what this means in the video that you probably watched. Basically what it means is that you're adding somebody to a loop as another user. Okay, so now I've added Carlos, and he's now listed in here as people and the admins. So the admins are going to be you, me, Tom, and Paul. So all four of us will have complete access to the forms. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we just need to do a little assigning of fields in the different forms. There's two types of forms here. One form will have just a signature in it. They'll just have to read it and sign it. And other types of forms, they'll have to fill them in and sign them. Okay, so we'll go through each one of these. Be aware that there's two policy and procedure manuals. Okay, so one of these needs to get archived. So there's a PRA policy and procedure manual, and there's a policy and procedure manual that doesn't have PRA on it. The only difference between the two is that Paul has a different transaction fee than we do. So that's the only thing that's different. So for all of these, you're going to come over here to the 3 little dots that are to the side, and you're going to archive this particular form. So it's not going to be there anymore. Okay. Okay. Next thing we need to do is go through each one of the forms and update them appropriately. So we'll start at the top. We'll go through confidentiality agreement. Open it up. Here's where you need to fill some things in. So this is Carlos. Spelled wrong. C-A-N. I'm going to actually copy and paste this because I'll be using it often. Copy. You can put in today's date or whatever day you're filling out. It doesn't matter. And then here I'm going to hit paste. And then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. There's nothing else to fill out, but the signature line has to be assigned. So this doesn't know who's going to be signing this. So I'm going to click on the assigned field, and then here in the drop down, I'm going to choose Carlos. So now Carlos can sign here. So this form is done. So we will hit save. We will hit this back button. And then it always asks us if you want to share a document, okay? I never share, you know, when I'm doing an individual document. I usually I share from the home page, the main page of the loop. Be aware that if you don't want to have this pop up every time, and it is very annoying, click off this "Do Not Show Me Again" box here. You can't see it really well unless you hover over it, so you kind of got to know where it's at, and then it won't pop up anymore. I actually have to leave mine. Oops, I hit yes to share, so it's asking me for the share button. I don't want that. Again, move out of the screen. I have to keep mine on so I could, for when I teach classes, so I can tell people what's going on. Okay, moving on in the employment application. In here, this is one of the types of forms that the agent's going to have to fill out and then sign. So I'm just going to go down to the bottom, assign the fields, Carlos, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to back out. I'm going to save my changes. And then I'm going to say no to share. Okay. The independent contractor agreement. You don't have to worry about this one. Tom will complete this. Then what he will end up doing is that I will remind him to come in here and send a note. So he will end up clicking on here, he'll click on new note, and then he can click off, you know, me and you, and just say, you know, hey, okay, and then we'll know that it's okay to send it out. So actually, technically, I am going to send a note and say, Tom, please complete IC8. So Tom will get a note from this loop. And so when he gets the email, he can just click on the link in the email will bring him to the particular loop. You don't have to say, okay, in Carlos Campagna's employee file, please do this. You don't have to bother with that. Going back down here, DBPR, the RE11. So this is the form that we use. This is the autofill thing. So, and when we're working with employee files, we do not use the autofill at all. And again, this is just one of the forms that the agent will need to fill out and then sign. So I only have to assign the save changes and no on share. There we go. My internet's a little slow today. Credit card authorization. Okay. The credit card authorization, the agent will need to fill out, but we have to fill in some stuff. So The charge amount is going to be $395, and the processing fee is $0. And this is a one-time charge. Okay. If the agents ask what this is for their E&O insurance, which is paid annually on their anniversary date. Okay. Oftentimes, I will, within the email that I send out to the agent, I will mention the credit card authorization that and what it's for, so there is no confusion, because a lot of them forget about that they end up, that's mentioned actually during their interview process, and a lot of the agents forget about it, so it's not a big deal. Office key. Pasting. Description of key is this. And we assign the signature. Back out. Save. No. Oh, and FYI, I just need you to set these files up. Either Tom or Paul will let us know when the forms need to be shared with an agent when they make their final decision to come on board. So I know you know already that, but they're going to be having meetings this week and the beginning of next week when Paul gets back. So we'll just have to sit and wait right now, but it'll make life a lot easier if you get all of these set up initially, because then we can just go through and share as they come up. Okay, the W-9 I think we just did. Employee emergency form. This one's interesting. This employee emergency form is kind of like a catch-all of information. A lot of, like, for instance, there's a birth date on here, and the application doesn't have the birth date, and we want it. So, or the state license ID, etc. But there's also no place for people to sign, and that gets people a little confused sometimes. So I've actually will add, like, a signature or initial sometimes, but it's not necessary. Actually, I'm not going to bother doing it. But just be aware that there's nothing in this particular form to fill out. When it does get sent out to an agent to sign, there, all the pages, all the forms come together in one PDF, and they just kind of scroll through all of them. And so they'll see that they have to fill this out. And I would have to say 90% of the time there's no confusion with it. Occasionally we have to resend it and say, hey, you missed this one. So the PRA policy and procedure manual, this is the next one. And this one, you just scroll all the way down to the bottom. And there's like a zillion pages. It's easier if I do this. There we go. And I will assign the signature here, so that you're assigning the signature to acknowledge that they have read and received and read this particular form, which nobody does. So, oops, there we go. Okay, so we're done setting up the forms, and we're not going to do the parking option one just yet. Be aware that this is in the area where the office is located. There is a Los Angeles employee parking permit program that is available to agents, and on the last page there is a letter basically that states that they work for us, so that's how they would be able to get their permit. But again, we don't lump this in with the regular employee paperwork. We will when I do the office orientation, I'll explain that, and if anybody needs it, I'll send it to them. Okay, so as I mentioned previously, there's two different types of forms here, ones that are just signed and ones that you fill out and sign. Because of that, 2 emails end up going out. In Dotloop, you're going to have to get used to the terminology that they use. Their word for basically like sharing. We used to say assign signatures and such or whatever. Their term is sharing. So in between this particular column and this column are actually checkboxes. And again, they're very difficult to see unless you hover over it and you end up seeing them light up, okay? And when you click on one of them, these options pop up, and one of them is share, but also these other fun options as well, which again, they will explain in the video if you haven't seen it already. So the confidentiality agreement is one of the forms that is just signed. There's nothing to fill in. Employment application, fill in. Independent contractor agreement. This would be one of the ones they just signed. The office key acknowledgement is one of them that they would just sign. And the policies and procedures manual is one of them that they would just sign. So these are the forms that I would send out to share to Carlos to just sign. So I would click on share. And the share window comes up. Carlos is automatically going to be checked off. And this particular, and it defaults depending on what it is. So in this particular type of loop, which is other, and Carlos has a role of other, it'll default to can sign. So that is great. And then I will, down here, add a custom message. So as an example, so I would say, Carlos. Oh, sorry. Should we do this? I would say email. Semicolon, and I'll be like, and that's pretty much about it. Just be aware that the messaging module in Dotloop is not exactly robust. Okay, so then I would click on this share button here, and the email would go out with that particular group of forms. So then I would run through this again, and I'm going to uncheck the other ones and check the ones that need to be filled in and signed. Come on. There we go. 1,000-year-old laptop. W9. Employee form. And off for that. So now we click share. And again, Carlos comes up, 3 fields, and it still says can sign. But I want to change this to can fill and sign. This way they can fill out the document. And then in the custom message, I'm going to say this. And then I would hit share. So that would be, isn't it? That's how I would send out these. So, and then after they go out, you'll be able to see if they've looked at them and if they completed them, etc. Again, be aware of the sharing part. We will be doing after we get notes from Tom or Paul to say, hey, they are a definite yes. Please send out their employee paperwork, and that'll go out probably next week after we do the formal announcement. And that's pretty much about it. So give me a shout if you have any questions on this. But if you can start working on getting the employee files created, that would be awesome. Okay. Oh, so sorry. Hold on a second. One last thing. In the name of the loop, I just clicked on that and it brings me to the back part of the page. Do me a favor and put in PRA so we can differentiate between the ERA and the PRA team, because the PRA team has some different sets of, like, you know, rules and fees that they charge clients, etc. And that's about it. So again, give me a shout if you have any questions. Okay, take care. Stop sharing.